Hi, it's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. I'm ready to read the next chapter from the book, The Hermit of Mad River. So, the last time I read, DJ found out that Zering had been bailed out of jail by somebody, and he's very suspicious about that. Why somebody would decide to do that. In fact, he thinks that there might be the same person that put the dynamite inside Mr. Zering's house. So now that Mr. Zering's out, DJ's going to go see him. Chapter 6, A New Danger. There we go. DJ awoke at dawn. He was to meet Alfred this morning for a tour of Yellow Dog, but first DJ had to see Zering. DJ pulled his robe over his pajamas and padded rapidly down the hallway in his slippers that slapped softly on the carpet. Dad Dillon came out of the bathroom, wiping his wet hands on a small towel. He was fully dressed except for his boots. He had them on, but they weren't laced. "Oh, DJ, Brother Paul called last night after you were asleep. He's short-handed on men to help repair the cross on Lookout Peak for the sunrise service. I told him I'd ask you to come along and help." "Aw, Dad, I've got things to do today." "Something more important than helping the preacher on Easter?" The boy hesitated, thinking fast. He didn't have to visit Yellow Dog. Now remember, that's the town that's going to be flooded when they fill up that dam. But he did have to see the hermit. "No, but Dad, first I've got to see the hermit. Two Mom told me about your idea of someone trying to frame the old hermit. I agree with her. Your imagination's running wild with you." "It wouldn't hurt to tell Mr. Zering what I suspect, would it, Dad?" "Well, no, I guess not. But we could use you today to help set up for Sunday. John Milford's bringing Alfred, so you two could work together." DJ nodded. That meant Alfred already knew they wouldn't be going to Yellow Dog this morning. It wouldn't be so bad helping repair the cross if his best friend was still there. Or was there. Still, DJ held off. "Couldn't I first tape the interview with Mr. Zering? The editor needs that today for sure, and I need money to pay for Hero's vet bill." "I suppose you could do that first, then take a shortcut up the side of Lookout Peak and meet us there. Fair enough?" "Fair enough." The boy almost sighed with relief, then thought of something else. "Then could you drive me to Indian Springs to deliver the tape and let me see my dog?" "Haven't you been phoning the vet?" "Yes, but today's the danger point. I thought Hero might feel better if he could see me. I'd certainly feel better if I could see him too." Dad threw the towel over his shoulder. "Okay, I guess." When DJ reached the hermit's cabin, the boy was surprised to see how much the old man had changed since DJ had last seen him. Mr. Zering's watery blue eyes were bloodshot, sort of wild looking. He was of medium height, yet his shoulders were now bent, making him look smaller. His striped railroad overalls seemed more threadbare than DJ remembered. The old man's clothes had been washed, and he'd shaved and probably had a shower. Mr. Zering paced back and forth on the rickety split log front porch of the shack he'd built many years ago. The restless movements reminded DJ of a caged animal he'd seen in a zoo. Right away, DJ told the hermit about the editor wanting a taped interview, but the hermit wasn't in any mood for that, so DJ told the hermit his suspicions about maybe somebody wanting Mr. Zering released from jail so he could be blamed for something terrible. Like maybe if the dam was blown up, DJ concluded. The old man didn't seem to hear. He didn't even answer. Instead, it seemed the hermit's mind was somewhere else. His bloodshot eyes skimmed the beauty of the surrounding trees and mountains. DJ, I ain't never going back to any jail, never. Why, I like to died in that tiny cell, and I never done nothing to nobody. So why would somebody do this to me? The boy felt that way about Hero and the rockers, but DJ didn't say anything. He removed his light blue windbreaker he was wearing and spread it over the top of an old stump that had been sawed off near the hermit's rickety front porch. The boy sat on the stump, feeling the fresh breeze of spring caressing his face. He couldn't stand to look at the terrible sadness in the hermit's leathery lined face. DJ turned his eyes towards a young incense cedar and the fresh grave where Tug lay buried. The boy tried not to think that might be the case with Hero, that he would have to bury him. Well, I tried to tell him, DJ told himself. He reached down to the day pack he'd placed against the stump. Mr. Ziering, I've got to interview you for the newspaper. I need the money to pay my dog's vet bill. The boy recovered a small battery-operated tape recorder from his pack. The hermit didn't seem to hear him. He paused in his pacing to look straight at the boy. DJ, if it hadn't been for that lawyer fellow, I'd still be locked up. Only not for long. I'd either found a way to escape or I'd have died. Lawyer? Never set eyes on him before, but he got me out. Said he was representing a client who was making my bail. Oh? DJ felt his excitement rising again. Who was his client? Lawyer feller told me he couldn't say. Something about client-attorney relationship and privileged information. But I don't care. I'm free, DJ, and I ain't never going back to jail. The boy hesitated. Mr. Ziering, I don't know much about the law, but doesn't bail just mean you're out on a promise to come back later for a hearing or something? Yep. That's what the lawyer feller done told me, but I ain't going back. They might try to put me back in that there jailhouse, and I won't go. DJ checked the recorder to make sure it was ready to operate. But doesn't that mean the person who put your bail money up will lose it? And the sheriff will come after you for jumping bail and put me back in jail? No sirree. I won't let him take me back. Never. Mr. Ziering's eyes blazed and he waved his hands as he spoke. Then he turned them into fists. He shook them in the direction of the sheriff, where the sheriff's officers had come for him a few days earlier. DJ swallowed a little uneasily. He'd never seen the hermit so agitated. The man's pacing increased, causing the weathered front porch to squeak like a small frightened animal. What'll you do? The boy asked softly. He wondered if the old man owned a gun. The hermit stopped pacing. He looked at DJ with eyes that suddenly seemed cold and hard. Can't rightly tell you that, DJ, but they'll be sorry. They'll all be sorry if they ever come to bothering me for something I ain't never done. It took some time for the old man to settle down. DJ convinced the hermit to start from the beginning and tell his story into the recorder. At first, Mr. Ziering watched the recorder suspiciously, as if it might jump up and bite him. But as he continued talking, the hermit forgot the recorder. He talked faster and faster, his voice rising. He told about growing up in the Carolinas, of caring for a pretty young woman who never cared for him. She married someone else. Mr. Zering said he then became a drifter, going off by himself for longer and longer periods of time. Got me neither chick nor kin. Chick would be a girl or a wife, he said, stopping for a moment. Then he resumed talking. He told about how he learned to work with dynamite. When he needed money, he'd work for a while as a powder monkey. I kept a-driftin', I reckon maybe 15, 20 years. Finally, I found this here spot and built on it. Nobody never came up in those days. Wild it was and peaceful. Then that changed. Building the dam changed things most. They're the trees and hills themselves, and they're a-killing me. The hermit stepped stiffly off the porch and walked towards a nearby Ponderosa. DJ picked up the tape recorder and followed, trying not to lose any of the old man's words. Them engineer fellows made a mark on this here tree, see? Mr. Zering pointed above his head to a small notch in the tree's bark. Told me the water would rise clean up to there. Drowned my house. Drown my dog's grave. Drown me too for all I care. DJ didn't say anything. He followed the hermit back to the porch. They sat down together at the top of the step, the recorder between them. Lived here a powerful long time I have. The old man's eyes took on a soft, faraway look. He didn't seem to see the beautiful trees and mountains anymore. DJ waited silently, not sure what to say. Finally, the hermit spoke. For years, nothing changed here. It was wilderness. But when they started building the dam, it brought in people and machines and noise. Then those dogs killed my poor old toothless, practically blind Tug. He never done nothing to hurt nobody. Me neither. So why'd they have to do that to us? Mr. Zering looked towards the dog's grave. A tear ran down his wrinkled cheek. DJ swallowed hard and looked away. He hurt for the old man. DJ reached over and pushed the recorder's stop button. Thanks, Mr. Zering, he said, rising up from where he'd been sitting on the top porch step. My editor will like that. Write me up a good story, DJ. Tell him the truth, just like I told you. That's all I ask. I will, DJ promised. Well, I've got to go help my dad. He and some men are repairing the cross on Lookout Peak for the Easter sunrise service. The hermit plucked a splinter from the slender post that supported the post's sagging roof. Easter, he said the word softly. Ain't thought of that in a coon's age. That's a really long time, I reckon. But I see that there cross on the top of the mountain, and I think about it sometimes. DJ removed the tape from the machine, but stopped before putting it in his pack. He glanced at the hermit, surprised at the man's words. You ever been to church, Mr. Zering? The old man rolled the splinter between his lips before answering, Yep. Once when I was about your age, I hit the Sawdust Trail. Now, the Sawdust Trail would be when they had big old tent meetings. They'd call them revivals. And they would put sawdust to make sure that it wasn't muddy or anything in there. And when they would have an altar call where they would ask people if they would like to accept Christ into their hearts, then people would go forward and they would pray to ask God in their hearts and to forgive them for their sins. So that's what Mr. Zering had done. Went to church regular. That's where I met that pretty gal I told you about. But when she wouldn't have none of me, I got mad at her. And God. Ain't been in a church since. DJ had never heard such sadness in a man's voice. The boy said a little uncertainly, "You could come to the sunrise service with me if you want." DJ wasn't sure how the people at church would react to Mr. Ziering. Still, Brother Paul always said every soul was precious to the Lord. "You could sit with me," DJ added hopefully. Mr. Ziering shook his head. The untidy locks of his gray hair were caught in a little gust of wind. "Thank ye kindly, DJ, but I dain't." "You don't dare? Why not?" DJ asked, feeling a growing concern for the strange old man. "Well, for one thing, it's dangerous." "Going to church?" "No, get in there," the hermit pointed. "I'm down in this canyon by the river. But see up yonder, the side of that mountain? To the west and downstream from the recluse's cabin, there was an opening in the canyon that permitted clear visibility of Lookout Peak. It rose majestically above the steep walls of the Mad River and the beautiful little area where the hermit lived." DJ looked up. "Where the cross is?" "Underneath it, on the southeast side of Lookout Peak. Ain't you never noticed all that digging for the dam that's done, what it's done to that ground up there?" DJ shook his head. "Look closer, boy. There's a whole mountain of dirt up there just waiting to let go and slide down." DJ's eyes followed the old man's pointing hand. "You mean avalanche?" "Much more than that. Look about a third of the way up that mountain. There's acres and acres of dirt just waiting for some hard rain. When the rain comes, that whole mountainside will let go and slide down. Wouldn't want to be downstream when that happens." DJ glanced at the sky. Dark, threatening clouds were drifting silently in from the southeast. DJ could see the scars where the great pieces of equipment had gouged and scraped tons of earth from the mountain for use of the dam farther downriver. But the boy couldn't see how the mountainside might be hit by a threatening storm. He started to say so, but the old man read his mind. "Always rains Easter hereabouts. If enough of it comes afore Sunday, it'll turn that whole mountainside to mud. It'll slide right down into them little meadows. You must have seen them. Then slip right into the canyon beside the river. It'll be the biggest wall of mud in all creation." "Mud?" "Sure thing. Bury everything in front of it." "How do you know that for sure?" Hermit snorted. "You don't spend your years blowing up mountains with blasting powder unless you know what's going to happen to the dirt you tear loose." "Shouldn't you warn somebody?" DJ asked anxiously, glancing towards the possible slide. The old man shrugged. He pointed out that he lived well upstream from where the threatening mountain stood. The natural slope of the higher land would carry any slide into the canyon half a mile or more below his cabin. There the canyon was so wide a landslide probably wouldn't even reach Mad River, but only fill the wide area scoured out of the mountain over long centuries of erosion. Besides, ain't nothing in that canyon where the mudslide will go. No people or houses nor nothing. Just them little meadows and a stand of timber. Mud will likely end up in the canyon by the river. No harm done, less'n some fools caught out there, like me if I was going to risk going to that sunrise service if it's been raining hard." Mr. Ziering paused and rubbed his watery eyes with the back of his withered hand. "Sighed, who'd listen to me if I told them of the danger? Everybody thinks I'm mean, ornery, an old geezer who's touched in the head." "I don't think that, Mr. Ziering." For a moment the old man gazed silently at the boy, DJ saw tears form in the red-rimmed eyes. You best be going to help your pa and them others, DJ. The hermit turned and walked quickly into the shack. He didn't look back, not even when he closed the splintery door. DJ had a strange sense of uneasiness. Maybe it was hearing the sad story of the old hermit's life. Maybe it was knowing Hero was still fighting to stay alive. Maybe it was the knowledge that DJ had to do something about Bo and Roland's dangerous dogs. Whatever it was, DJ didn't like it. He tried to shake off the feeling. When the recorder was safe in his pack, DJ holstered it onto his shoulder and started off. As he paused past the sagging woodshed, DJ saw something glistening where the sun's rays penetrated the small mountain misery plant. Remember, that's the plant that grows low to the ground, kind of like a fern. Stinks real bad if you step on it. And it's full of resin or pitch, like stuff that will cause it to really blow up in a fire. He bent down and picked up a metallic button. This isn't mine or Alfred's. Maybe one of the deputies lost it the other day. DJ rubbed the button between his fingers as he began to climb out of the river canyon. He started across the first small meadow without thinking, dropped the button inside his windbreaker pocket. DJ's eyes probed up the acres of dirt clinging to the side of the mountain. Looks safe to me, he told himself, but I'd sure hate to be in the way if that ever does let go. Suddenly the sky was filled with dark, rapidly moving clouds that DJ had noticed earlier. Wonder if the hermit's right. It does always seem to rain at Easter. And that's the end of that story. Chapter. Well, that is quite a thing to think about. And I bet that old hermit really does know what he's talking about. I don't know how much rain it takes to make a slide, though. Well, it's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. I'm glad you're here with me again today. And I plan on reading it to you again tomorrow. So join me then. If you have anybody you know that might like this, share it. Or if you have a Facebook or some other type of media like that, if you'd share it on that and help my channel grow, I'd appreciate it. All right. I want to pray blessings on you and yours in your house and out of your house in the day and the night. Whatever you do, keep dreaming. Keep a story in your heart. Bye-bye.